the darkest moments captured on film, images they tried to erase. Subscribe to History Unveiled for the truth they buried. Antietam, September 17, 1862. Confederate dead lie in front of Dunker Church. Soldiers and a horse sprawled beside an overturned caisson. White building and fence in the background. The bloodiest single day in American history frozen in a photograph. Bloody Lane, Antietam, 1862. The sunken road after battle. General D.H. Hill's Confederate troops received multiple assaults and enfilading fire from Union divisions. Bodies stacked in the depression like cordwood. The road earned its name in blood. Ebensee concentration camp, Austria. Starved prisoners, nearly dead from hunger. Pose after liberation by the 80th Division, U.S. Army. Subcamp of Mauthausen, reputedly used for scientific experiments. Walking skeletons with hollow eyes. Humanity reduced to bone. 1915. Armenian refugees crowd the deck of a French cruiser that rescued them during the Ottoman Empire's massacre of Armenian populations. Genocide survivors fleeing extermination. The ships that saved those who could reach the sea. German-occupied Lodz, Poland. World War II. A Nazi commands Polish children at the camp on Przemysłowa Street. Kamikaze. Children imprisoned for being Polish. The Third Reich's systematic destruction of future generations. Buchenwald concentration camp, April 1945. Emaciated prisoners in barracks after liberation by U.S. Third Army troops. Skeletal faces stare from wooden bunks stacked floor to ceiling. The living barely distinguishable from the dead. Stalingrad, winter of 1942 to 1943. German soldiers frozen to death in the snow. Bodies encased in ice, preserved in their final positions. The bitter Russian winter killed more men than Soviet bullets. The Triple Execution Series by Walter H. Horn. 3 condemned prisoners hang for allegedly stealing military supplies. Side by side, lifeless. Summary justice. No trial details recorded. Only the photograph remains. France, January 31st, 1939. Republican soldiers resting after fleeing Franco's Spain. They defy fascism with a communist salute. Exhausted, defeated, defiant. The Spanish Civil War's refugees, carrying their lost cause into exile. Cambodia, 1976 to 1979. This mother and baby were among the Khmer Rouge's victims. Photographed before execution at the torture center. The Cambodian genocide documented by the killers themselves. Over 17,000 died here. Hiroshima Hibakusha survivor. Nuclear burns symptomatic across her skin. The pattern matches the kimono she wore at the moment of the atomic flash. Fabric design burned permanently into flesh. The bomb's signature written on the living. Western Front. A soldier sits cleaning mud from his rifle with a cloth. Tin of gun grease sits before him. His beard suggests several days in the trenches without relief. Regulations demanded clean shaves, but survival took priority over grooming. A brief moment of maintenance before returning to hell. London, 1945. A boy clutches a stuffed animal amid ruins following German aerial bombing. His mother, father, and brother all dead, buried beneath the rubble surrounding him. Alone with a toy. Childhood ended in an instant. Early England. Cotton factories employed very young orphan children under severe conditions. Long hours, poor living, frequent accidents, little concern for health or morals. Reports in 1796 highlighted harm to children and society. The first Factory Act followed in 1802, limiting hours and banning night work. American Military Hospital No. 5, Auteuil. Wounded American soldier receives comfort from a Red Cross nurse's aide while a Boy Scout runs his errands. War's casualties cared for by volunteers and children. Small acts of kindness in a world gone mad. North Africa, June 2nd, 1942. German prisoners walked behind barbed wire in the desert. Defeated soldiers in Africa corps uniforms, now captives under blazing sun. The hunters become the hunted. Grand Val near Paris. French refugee children at an American Red Cross home during World War I. Young faces displaced by invasion, sheltered by foreign charity. Childhood interrupted, but not completely destroyed. World War I. A soldier writes his final letter. Helmet beside him, pen gripped tightly. Words to loved ones he may never see again. Every letter from the front carried the weight of goodbye. St. Poise, Normandy, August 10th, 1944. A girl and her grandmother wait in a schoolyard. Refugees fled here, escaping the fighting in Mortain during the final battle for Normandy, waiting for safety that may never arrive. Generations caught between armies. Nagasaki, 1945. The city after the atomic bomb. Flattened buildings stretch to the horizon. A few concrete structures stand like tombstones. Everything else reduced to ash and rubble. The second city to learn what atomic fire means. West Riding Lunatic Asylum, Wakefield, Yorkshire. Elderly man, wearing checkered uniform, strapped into a restraint chair. Photograph attributed to Henry Clark. Victorian psychiatry. Imprisonment disguised as treatment. Restraints replace compassion. Studley Park Lunatic Asylum, Melbourne, 1870 to 1875. Photographed by American and Australasian Photographic Company. Gothic architecture, housing the mentally ill. Australia's answer to madness. Isolation behind stone walls and iron gates. Massachusetts General Hospital, Boston, July 3, 1847. Historic daguerreotype of an early ether operation by Southworth and Hawes. Doctors John Collins Warren, Jonathan Mason Warren, and Henry Jacob Bigelow depicted. Surgery before anesthesia became standard. The dawn of painless operations. Pereira Hospital, 1956. Training session for electroconvulsive therapy. Nurses restrain a patient, actually a nurse playing the role, to protect from injury during treatment. ECT administered unmodified, without anesthetic or muscle relaxants. First World War. Lieutenant Colonel G.G.S. Archer's photograph collection. Surgery division at No. 5 Stationary Hospital, Rouen, and No. 40 Field Ambulance. Medical Corps treating the endless wounded. Battlefield medicine evolving through necessity. Pennsylvania Hospital for Mental and Nervous Diseases, 44th and Market Streets, Philadelphia. First floor waiting room. Fireplace on south wall. Elegant architecture masking institutional confinement. The gilded cage for society's troubled minds. National Museum of Health and Medicine. Man with polio encased in iron lung, visiting with his family. Metal cylinder breathing for him. His family gathers close, touching what they can reach. Connection through machinery. Love persisting through paralysis. Stannington Sanatorium, Morpeth, Northumberland. Britain's first sanatorium for tuberculosis children. Senior girls, surgical cases. Young patients recovering from operations meant to collapse diseased lungs. Childhood spent coughing in sterile wards. Auschwitz, Block 10, Poland, 1941 to 1944. Nazi physician Karl Klauberg, at left, who performed medical experiments on prisoners. Torture disguised as science. The Holocaust medical butchers working without consent or mercy. Dachau concentration camp, Germany, 1944. A Romani victim of Nazi medical experiments to make seawater drinkable. Forced to consume only seawater until his body failed. Genocide through experimentation. Human beings reduced to test subjects. Nurse with patients. Location and date unknown. Care given in an era when treatments were limited and outcomes uncertain. Compassion where medicine failed. University of Pennsylvania Medical School. First-year students in the dissecting room of the laboratory building. Young doctors learning anatomy on cadavers. Death teaching the living how to preserve life. Battle of Bataan, January to April 1942. U.S. and Filipino medical workers and Red Cross personnel labor near the front lines, treating wounded soldiers while battling exhaustion, disease, and death. Makeshift hospital wards set up in jungle clearings. Medicine practiced under fire. June 3, 1945. The Reichstag stands in ruins. Allied bombs reduced Berlin's symbol of power to shattered stone and twisted metal. The heart of the Third Reich, now silent rubble. July 16, 1945. Prime Minister Winston Churchill walks through the ruins of Hitler's chancellery in Berlin. Victor surveying the defeated empire. The man who refused surrender now stands where tyranny fell. Graffiti covers the interior walls of the ruined Reichstag. Soviet soldiers carved their names, their units, their victory. Vandalism as monument. The conquerors left their mark on Germany's fallen temple. Normandy, June 1944. USS LST-543 becomes the first landing ship to unload at Lobnitz Pier off the Norman coast. Mulberry Harbor's operational, the artificial port that made invasion possible. Normandy coast. German gun emplacement destroyed by Allied aircraft. Pillbox armed with guns of 10 and a quarter-inch bore. Concrete walls 13 feet thick. For massive guns silenced. Even fortresses fall. June 1944. Casualties transferred from Coast Guard 83-foot rescue boat to larger evacuation ship. Note the name Miss Fury painted on the superstructure. Angels of the Sea. Pulling broken soldiers from combat zones. Normandy invasion beaches, June 1944. Landing ships unload cargo at low tide during opening days. USS LST, 532, 262, 310, 533, and 524 visible. Barrage balloons overhead. Army half-tracks forming convoy on the beach. The machinery of liberation. May 11th, 1945. USS Bunker Hill struck by 2 kamikazes within 30 seconds off Kyushu. 372 dead, 264 wounded. The carrier burns but refuses to sink. Survival through agony. Ensign Kiyoshi Ogawa, kamikaze pilot who damaged USS Bunker Hill during Operation Kikisui No. 6, May 11th, 1945. Young face. Final mission. He died in the explosion he created. Mullaghmore Harbor, Monday, August 27th, 1979. Rescue workers lift an unidentified body from a small boat. An explosion aboard the fishing vessel killed Earl Mountbatten of Burma and 2 others. The IRA claimed responsibility. Terror reached royalty. Auschwitz-Birkenau, German-occupied Poland, May through June 1944. Selection of Hungarian Jews on the ramp. Nazis divide arrivals, work or gas chamber. The final phase of the Holocaust captured in a single photograph. Industrial genocide made routine. New York City, Great Depression. A bread line stretches endlessly down the street. Hundreds wait to be fed. No substantial government aid exists yet. Hunger in the land of plenty. New York, Aleppo, 1921. Armenian genocide orphans. Children who survived systematic extermination. Lost families, stolen childhoods. The forgotten genocide's youngest witnesses stare into the camera. Nicosia, Cyprus, April 1975. March commemorating the 50th anniversary of the Armenian genocide. Survivors and descendants remember 1.5 million murdered. Memory as resistance against erasure. 1853. The oldest known photograph of a famine survivor. He worked as a laborer on Devonshire Estate, Lismore, County Waterford. Ireland's great hunger etched into his gaunt face. Survival through starvation. Titanic lifeboat number 6. 16 women, 6 men rescued. Among them, Miss Bowerman, Mrs. J.J. Brown, Mrs. Candy, Mrs. Rothschild. Quartermaster hitching at the oars. The fortunate few who escaped the unsinkable ship. April 18, 1912. Crowd gathers at Cunard Line's Pier 54, New York. Carpathia arrives carrying Titanic survivors. Bad weather delayed the ship. Erroneous newspaper reports created confusion about rescue numbers. Families wait in agonizing uncertainty. May 6, 1937. Lakehurst, New Jersey. German airship Hindenburg erupts in flames at the mooring mast. Hydrogen ignites. 36 people die in seconds. The age of airship travel ends in fire. Hindenburg wreckage close-up. Photo taken from the fin looking aft, toward the rear, where the first explosion occurred. Twisted metal skeleton of what was once technological marvel. Dreams of flight consumed. Chernobyl, 1986. Liquidators cleaned the roof of reactor number 3. Robots failed against extreme radiation. Humans became the solution. Some areas allowed only 40 seconds before workers absorbed a lifetime's maximum radiation dose. Sacrifice measured in millisieverts. Chernobyl liquidators clear radioactive debris from reactor number 4 roof. Biological robots with only seconds to work. Grab debris, throw it into reactor ruins. Repeat until your body can take no more. Heroes who saved Europe by destroying themselves. Hiroshima. Flash burns on the steps of Sumitomo Bank Company. Human shadows permanently scorched into stone by atomic light. The blast vaporized bodies, leaving only their silhouettes.